Uh-oh.
In her last two fights. Good way hitting him from that way down.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. It appears that Usyk Baumgardner has been ordered to face former champion Delphine Persoon. Undisputed super featherweight champion Usyk Baumgardner has been ordered to face her WBC mandatory challenger next. Purse bids will be on Friday, March 15th in Mexico City, in what is a fantastic fight. I agree. I've talked about this fight several times in passing, the potentiality of it, because Delphine is highly ranked by way of several of the sanctioning bodies, not just one, but this one. It's the WBC that's ordering the fight between them. It's the WBC that is making this happen, more or less, and I expect it to. The purse bid's supposed to be in Mexico on March 15th, but Delphine's not with a major promotional outfit. I don't expect a bidding war to ensue. The only one at Eastwood that's with a major outfit is Alicia, the champion. She's with Matchroom. If they make Delphine Persoon an offer, I expect her to take it, because even if she doesn't and a deal isn't reached and a purse bid rolls around, Matchroom will likely be the only ones that bid on the fight anyway. In all likelihood. There's an off chance that some other promoter, some other outfit steps in and wants to add this to their existing show.
What?
I'm just mulling over all the scenarios, even the ones that don't seem that likely, that if it were to go to purse bid, some other outfit that has a lot of money and is already doing a big show, yeah, maybe they might put a bid in for the fight because they want to add this to their show.
Maybe.
What makes it somewhat unlikely is you have a fighter that's contracted to another promoter. You pay through the nose just to get the rights to one of their fights, but after it's done, they go back.
Why would you do that?
Let's not get too caught up on the potentiality of a purse bid and what might happen after that. The purse bid's on the 15th, if there is going to be one, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. This fight, I like this fight. This would put Usyk Baumgardner in there with one of the more fearsome punchers anywhere at or around these weights. One of the most fearsome punchers the sport of women's boxing has ever seen, Delphine Persoon, who's still dangerous and still capable, but is getting long in the tooth. She's coming up on 40.
She's a threat to Alicia.
Usyk Baumgardner, who's made headlines for her back-and-forth battles with Clarissa Shields, her old buddy, what used to be her old buddy, in a rift between her and Adrian Broner.
That piece of shit.
This fight is not as big as a Clarissa Shields fight would be, or a Katie Taylor fight. I know that Usyk Baumgardner has expressed an interest in facing Katie Taylor. Instead, she's being ordered to face a common opponent between them. That's what Delphine Persoon is. She flew largely under the radar for years. Beaten up girls, good fighters, really, really good fighters. But it wasn't until she fought Katie that she put the world on notice.
She's dangerous.
She fought Katie 2 times and gave her all she could handle both times, but Katie emerged the victor. Delphine Persoon has since moved down in weight, down from 135 down to 130, and she has effectively become Alicia's problem. She's still beating up girls, still racking up knockouts. She was last in action in November of last year against Agustina Rojas, who she won a unanimous decision against. Delphine Persoon is best described as a pressure fighter, a volume puncher, where Alicia's base style mirrors that of the pure boxer, the economic pure boxer, the outside fighter, the moving target.
Based on styles, Delphine has the edge.
But this is a nuanced situation, because in spite of that tactical advantage, that stylistic advantage, Delphine is a lot older than Alicia Baumgardner. In terms of single punching power, the power in a single punch, I actually think Alicia's stronger than Delphine Persoon, but she doesn't throw as many punches as Delphine Persoon.
If Delphine is a Gatling gun, then Alicia is a sniper rifle.
Fighting from a distance, throwing long-range shots, long-range punches with a lot on them.
Making them count.
Yeah, we've seen instances where Alicia might string together 2 and 3 punch combinations in the pocket, but that's after she gets off a big counter. That's after she lands big. The rest of the time, she's moving around, managing a distance, staying out of trouble, and firing long-range punches because she's fast enough to do it.
She's quicker to the draw than Delphine Persoon. She's got faster feet and faster hands. She also has more single punching power than Delphine. What makes it a dangerous fight
Is Delphine's work rate, Delphine's engine?
I've seen Alicia tire more times than I've ever seen Delphine Persoon tire.
Delphine Persoon's work rate, that she throws so many punches so often throughout the course of a round that she flusters her opponents.
If what you want is the room and the real estate to work to get off a clean punch, she won't give it to you. She'll draw you out and force you to fight.
Try to wear you out, as well as Delphine Persoon's punch resistance. She can take a punch. She's been in there with big punchers. It's intriguing because Delphine is experienced and she has a stylistic advantage, though at the same time, she's getting long in the tooth. She is getting up there in age. If Alicia wants to keep the WBC title, she has to satisfy her.
She's got to fight her.
And she's not a nobody. People will recognize her from the Katie Taylor fight, the Katie Taylor fights.
They know who Delphine Persoon is.
Let's see how long it takes Matchroom to make this fight materialize. Men's heavyweight news. Tyson Fury reacted to Anthony Joshua's highlight reel knockout of Francis Ngannou by saying, "Me and Alexander Usyk have got an undisputed heavyweight world title fight coming up, and he's just had a show fight."
Is he serious?
You had the show fight with that same guy first. You had the show fight with Francis before Anthony. In fact, if not for your show fight with him, Anthony wouldn't have bothered.
We don't need to go over what the difference is between your show fight with him and Anthony's show fight with him. By now, everybody knows.
The nerve of this guy. But he continued, "For the actual real boxing, it's me and Usyk who fight for the #1 position and undisputed."
All of a sudden, he cares about undisputed. Last I checked, he's the one who told Michelle Joy Phelps that it was never his priority. It was never his dream to become undisputed. That was always someone else's dream.
Those were his words. That's what he said.
He's not a child.
He's a grown man, and I'm not going to write off what he said based on him being a flip-flopper or a pathological liar. That doesn't make him look any better. That he's a rabid contradictorian.
Always contradicted himself. Oh, now you care about undisputed. Now it's about the real boxing. You're the reason all of this happened.
He continued, "I'm still dismissive of him being Anthony Joshua. AJ's made to measure for me. Just because he knocked out Francis Ngannou, it's not the same. He couldn't land any of those rights on Usyk, a way smaller and lighter man."
Do you hear this guy?
He brings up Usyk, an opponent that is not yet a common opponent between them because he hasn't fought him yet. Instead of reacting to the common opponents they have fought, the common opponents they've both shared the ring with. Why don't you focus on Ngannou?
Huh?
Ngannou, who he made short work of.
Huh?
Ngannou, who he beat easy, but you couldn't, because with you, it actually turned into a fight. It actually turned into a contest.
You didn't just land punches on Ngannou. You landed elbows on Ngannou, and you couldn't put him away.
Even with your shyster tactics, even with your dirty boxing.
And you couldn't put him away.
He said it's not the same. He couldn't land any of those rights on Usyk, a way smaller and lighter man. Styles make fights, and his style is made for me.
You bring up Usyk because you don't want to talk about Ngannou.
Because how you looked against Francis Ngannou after everything you've said about yourself and everything you've made people think about you, it's embarrassing. It is fucking embarrassing. And you know it's embarrassing because the night of, he skipped out on the post-fight press conference. Why do you think he did that?
Embarrassment.
Need I remind you that the Fury versus Usyk fight was supposed to have happened last year, late last year, after the Ngannou fight. But because Fury performed so poorly, he cancels the post-fight press conference and postponed the Usyk fight to early this year, just for it to get postponed again
because of him. Because of that scratch above his eye. Asked about how Anthony Joshua performed against Francis Ngannou, he's got to say something. He's embarrassed. He knows he is, and we know it too. But he's got to say something, so he hides behind the guise of the quote-unquote real boxing, the real fight with Usyk they had to twist your arm to have. The one that you said wasn't a priority to you. Undisputed, Usyk, that you'd rather fight MMA guys. Didn't he mention fighting John Bones Jones? Don't try to explain away Fury's own words with him being a kooky character, a zany character. He's a fucking idiot. What's the explanation supposed to be? That the guy contradicts himself so much you can't hold him to his word? That's all the more reason to hold him to his word. To show everybody how full of shit he is. Cause he's full of fucking shit. Full of it. When he came back to the sport of boxing, after the 2-year hiatus, he came back and he was more well received. He was more liked when he came back than when he left. Because when he left, he was a social pariah. He made inflammatory comments about certain groups of people. He tested positive for a banned substance, nandrolone, that he was being investigated for by UKAD and the BBBOC, and he skirted out of the Vladimir Klitschko rematch with his mental health issues. He was not well liked at the time. In spite of his big win over Vladimir Klitschko, a better fighter, in my opinion, than Deontay Wilder, he was not liked at this time. He wasn't. Now, what enabled him to come here and gaslight the boxing community at large here is that Americans, in a very general sense, weren't paying that much attention to heavyweight boxing back when he fought Klitschko. They weren't. In his absence, they started paying attention again due to the rivalry between Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. That picked up in his absence. While Tyson Fury was away for those 2 years, Joshua versus Wilder became a hot topic. So when he comes back, the heavyweight division is now getting more attention and more coverage transatlantically than it was when he left. It was a more fertile environment with more money flowing through it. Lines had been drawn in the sand. Team Wilder, Team Joshua, Deontay Wilder and his team, several content creators here on YouTube, managed to convince a lot of people that Anthony was scared and Anthony didn't want to unify and Anthony didn't want to fight. All the while, Deontay Wilder's rejecting offer after offer after offer to fight. Each offer bigger than the last. What does this have to do with Tyson Fury gaslighting everybody? Deontay Wilder was doing it first. Deontay Wilder's the one who introduced Tyson Fury back into the heavyweight picture, remember? When he afforded him a title shot, he didn't earn, he didn't deserve. That's what set these events in motion, and that's a big part of how Tyson Fury was able to gaslight everybody. Wilder didn't want to acquiesce to being the B-side to Anthony Joshua, but that's very much what he was at the time, and that's what he still is. Better still, Wilder didn't want to acquiesce to being the B-side to Anthony Joshua, so he conjures up another unbeaten fighter, another unbeaten Brit, Tyson Fury, who at that time was recovering from obesity and cocaine addiction. In truth, the only reason Wilder fought him is because of that. What it really is, and what it always was a cherry pick that backfired. It backfired because the first time you fought him, it resulted in a draw. The second time you fought him, he kicked your ass up and down that ring. He kicked your ass and changed your life. In doing so, he convinced a lot of people that he was the man. He has to be because he beat Wilder. When Wilder was never the man to beat. Wilder was never the top dog in the heavyweight division throughout the Klitschko era and after it. He was never number one. Tyson Fury beating Deontay Wilder as badly as he did when so many didn't expect him to. That's why so many bought into his spiel and his silver tongue. What ultimately became his fucking nonsense. Eventually, the spell wore off, and a lot of people started to see him for what he really is and who he really is. Yeah, he's a skilled boxer. He's got skills. He's good. Though maybe not as good as you think he is. It's a combination of Wilder's gaslighting, which then became Tyson Fury's gaslighting, that gave people the wrong idea about Anthony and about everybody else. So when I see that there were actually people betting against Anthony Joshua to beat Otto Wallin, they were betting on Otto to beat him, where I was sure, I was confident, Anthony stops that guy. When I see that there were actually people betting on Francis Ngannou to knock him out, where I was sure, I was confident, Anthony stops that guy. He does. People are surprised. They're wowed by it.
All that tells me is you bought into Tyson Fury's bullshit.
You did.
You actually let him gaslight you into thinking the guy who's unifying all the titles and the guy who's making all the offers to Wilder.
The real offers, not that $50 million bullshit.
I don't even want to get into all that. That's been talked to death.
Andy Ruiz beating AJ had something to do with their perception, though, didn't it? It did.
Yeah, it did, but it's not like Deontay Wilder beat Andy or Tyson Fury beat Andy.
And AJ did win the rematch in lopsided fashion.
AJ losing to Alexander Usyk, surely that affected their perception too, though once again, it's not like Wilder beat Usyk, and it's not like Fury beat him.
Fury's been trying to get out of this Usyk fight for a while now.
Where Anthony fought him 2 times. No fuss, no muss, no production, no arguments. He went in there 2 times, fought him 2 times.
Where you have to struggle to get Tyson Fury to fight him once.
Fight Usyk once. The same Usyk that Anthony fought. Alexander Usyk, who said the difference between the two. Come May 18th, Usyk stamps it. And new, 2-time, undisputed heavyweight champion.
What's interesting?
The Joshua versus Fury storyline of it is what has most people's attention right now, because Anthony's last 2 opponents were common opponents between him and Tyson Fury, though that's nothing new. They actually have about 5 common opponents.
Anthony's knocked all 5 of them out.
Where Fury's only ever knocked out 1. Just 1, and that was Dillian White. But this is the aspect of the story that most people are focusing on right now, and what they're not focusing on so much
Is Usyk.
who never took his eyes off the ball. He did it the old-fashioned way. Hell, he did it the hard way, the hardest way possible, collecting every single title he's ever won on foreign soil as the away fighter at cruiserweight, now at heavyweight.
You give Tyson Fury all his credit for beating Klitschko in Dusseldorf and Wilder in America.
Where Usyk beat Glavatsky in Poland, Meiras in Latvia, Murat Gassiev in Russia.
A Ukrainian beating a Russian on points.
In Russia, Michael Hunter in America, Tony Bellew in the UK.
Anthony Joshua in the UK.
If Tyson Fury is made special because he was the away fighter with Klitschko and he was the away fighter with Deontay Wilder, Usyk's been the away fighter way more times than Fury.
Fury, who made things as difficult as possible to negotiate with Usyk.
Usyk, who was willing to accept a 70-30 split just for Tyson Fury to turn around and mock his team and mock his management for accepting it, holding the undisputed title fight to ransom.
And after Usyk accepts that lopsided split, what does Tyson Fury do? Tyson Fury says no rematch clause. Up until that point, it was understood they would both have rematch clauses. Fury moved to remove it.
He was making things as difficult as possible with Usyk because underneath it all, he didn't really want to fight him, and I don't think he really wants to fight him now, but he's backed into a corner. He is especially backed into a corner now because now, if he withdraws from this fight, he's out $10 million. $10 million of his own dollars, not out of the fight purse.
It's his money.
Tyson Fury is to me now what he always was. A good fighter. Good, not great.
He'll have his chance to prove whether he's great or not.
In May. But as stated, Tyson Fury is to me now what he always was. A good fighter, fidgety fighter, and a great talker.
He may be a better talker than he is a fighter.
As it's his rhetoric that had all of you believing that Anthony Joshua is some chinny guy, some stiff robotic bodybuilder. Well, the stiff robotic bodybuilder did better against Valine, did better against Ngannou than you did. So what does that make you?
What does that say about you?
A stiff robotic bodybuilder did that to those guys. Why couldn't you do that? You're supposed to be king shit. You're supposed to be numero uno.
Why?
We'll see what you are and what you ain't in May.